Hello, everyone. I am Brady Bridges, and I'm the broker and owner of Reside Real Estate here in Fort Worth, Texas. I want to welcome you to another episode of Real Talk with Reside Real Estate. We are a top producing team here in Fort Worth, Texas, and we want this podcast to be a resource for anyone looking to learn more about real estate and the great city of Fort Worth, Texas. Today, I'm joined by Jessica Forrester out of Destin, Florida. She runs the Emerald Coast Beach Homes Group. Marking her 21st year in real estate, Jessica and her husband own Emerald Coast Beach Homes based out of Destin, Florida. Using their own experience with owning and managing Airbnbs, Jess and Glenn have built the ECBH team, specializing in helping short-term rental investors build their portfolio and net worth along the coastal Gulf Panhandle of Florida. Jessica, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
So Jessica, I thought this would be a really interesting conversation because your team obviously helped my family early this year buy an investment property. And I get asked all the time, and it's always a hot conversation, it seems like, about people wanting to buy a second home and rent it out, short-term rentals. So I thought you'd be a great conversation. So tell us a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into it.
So my name is Jessica. I'm the broker owner of Emerald Coast Beach Homes here in Destin, Florida. We service the panhandle of Florida, the Gulf Coast. Right now, our main focus is Destin, Miramar Beach, and 30A, which is Santa Rosa Beach. But we do go into the military bases in Niceville, Fort Walton Beach, and even heading out to Panama City Beach and Pensacola Way as well. So we specialize in short-term rentals. My husband and I and our family own several. We also have a small management division, and we love helping new and seasoned investors. Okay, so you obviously own the brokerage. How many agents do you have working for you guys right now? We have nine agents, and then our property management division just has a staff of 2.
So how did you get started in real estate?
Well, that's a good question. That was a really long time ago. It was actually in Dallas. I grew up in Highland Village, just north of Dallas.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Yeah, went to University of North Texas, and straight out of college, I was in sales. I sold Cutco knives in college and did pretty well with that, and went straight into another sales job, but just wasn't passionate about it. And somebody gave me this opportunity and about becoming a real estate agent, and I jumped on it. But my first day was September 11th, 2001. I was 23 years old, 24 years old. And so it took me a good probably 9 months to sell my first property.
Yeah, I can't think of a rougher time to try to get into real estate.
Yeah. So my husband...
Did you start in Florida or did you start in Texas?
Started in Texas and met my husband in Texas. He's actually from New Zealand, but he was traveling through to play rugby for a little bit. And so he was picking up jobs. He's a master painter and really good with remodeling and things like that. So that naturally developed into us buying and flipping. And so we spent a lot of our early career buying homes, flipping them over in the East Dallas market. Bought a couple long-term property that we self-managed, but our goal was always to get to Destin. You know, he doesn't have family here, and my family was planning on retiring there. He likes to be by the water, which I do too. We grew up going to Destin. So in the end of 2009, we moved over to Destin and really started fresh here. We didn't know anybody. I started on a team here. He was remodeling, and it just grew.
That's awesome. I did not know that about you. That's really cool. So Destin, you got there, you started working for a team, you guys got your brokerage going. So how did you know you wanted to get into, obviously buying and selling homes is already something you were already thinking of doing, but how did you get into the short-term game? Because, it's not really that old, the short-term rental idea. So how did you guys transition into that, and how did y'all make that a part of your business to start growing and marketing that to your clients?
Good question. It was sort of an accident. My sister bought a short-term rental down here that my husband and I were like, we'll manage it for you. Had no idea what we were doing. And in 2010, my best friend passed away in Houston. She was fighting colon cancer, and her kids were Aunt Jess and Uncle Glenn. And so we convinced her husband to buy a short-term rental in the complex that Glenn and I lived in at the time. And so we managed his short-term rental and my sister's short-term rental. And by that time, I was a single agent working, and Glenn was doing a lot of remodel jobs and a lot of jobs for second homeowners that were clients because they're not here and they have no one to trust. And so we had a friend that kept saying, can you take on more rentals? And we're like, no, we both work full time and 2 is enough right now. But we eventually formed a company that we built out the rental side of it as well as the brokerage side and remodeling side as well.
So just going through this with you guys, I thought this would be really interesting. So when you're talking to a client who wants to come into Destin and buy either a vacation home and use it sometimes for short-term rental, what are you telling people to look for budget-wise? Like, what's a realistic budget for people to look for? And how do you know what is going to be a good property? Because some of these are already rented, but some of them aren't. So how do you come up with what's a good deal and what's not a good deal?
That is such a good question. And the bad thing is that if you don't have an agent that knows short-term rentals very well, you might see a property on MLS and its rental history is horrible, but it might make a great rental property in the right hands of right management or with some remodeling. So you really do have to know the ins and outs. And there's not just one answer. It really is case specific on what you're looking for. Most people that come here do want it as an investment, but also want to enjoy it themselves. And so there's a little bit of that emotional attachment into that it's not just pure investment. So we get out a cash flow, just like any other investor, and put it on the cash flow. But the cash flow to different people, sometimes the cash flow, they just want it to break even or cover almost all their expenses. It doesn't always have to cash flow. So it depends on what you're looking for, which area we would advise you to go to. More pure investment, I would say, is down in the Destin Miramar Beach way. If you want more enjoyable for your family, maybe break even, but probably not, then you're looking more 30A.
Okay. Yeah, and I'm sure, does that differ based on price point typically? I'm guessing people that are buying more high cost homes, they're not as worried about it cash flowing.
Right. And it's funny because then you get a couple and one is very interested in it cash flowing and one is very interested in coming 4 times a year. And, some of those times are your peak season when you make the most money. And so there becomes a little bit of a give and take between the couple that owns it. But definitely 30A has some gorgeous property. The price point is higher and the rental income is not as elevated to offset the higher price of the homes. Can you cash flow at 30A? Yes, absolutely. It's harder than it's Destin and Miramar Beach.
So what are the typical buyers you guys are working with in terms of budget wise? Are y'all all spectrum or are you typically on the higher end? What are y'all focusing on?
We're all spectrum. Our office is based right in the middle of Miramar Beach, which is a great central location to the Destin Harbor, even Okaloosa Island, which is Fort Walton Beach, and 30A and Panama City Beach. So we are full spectrum. We are happy to work with the first time short-term rental investor that only wants to spend $400,000 or, an investor wants to spend $4 million. It's so fun when somebody's buying their beach property because it's just as exciting for that $400,000 buyer as it is for the $4 million. So,
just for it doesn't really pertain to the whole, but is y'all's marketing for your business has to be totally. You're not really marketing to anyone in your area. Probably for property management, all your marketing's. What region specifically are you marketing to that you're seeing most people coming to Florida and Destin? Is it Texas, California? Where is it?
It's definitely right
Probably
around
not California, I would think. But.
No, the great thing about our area is that we're drivable from so many different so it makes it so much more affordable for families, and they don't have to get a plane ticket for everyone. They can just jump in the big Suburban and come over here. So definitely Georgia, Atlanta is probably our biggest feeder market, but everything right around us, Mississippi, Louisiana, Tennessee, Texas is huge for us, even though, I used to come from Dallas all the time, and that's a good 12, 13 hours, but still huge for us. Houston, huge for us. And the funny thing is we're starting to see a lot more Kentucky and Ohio, and it's starting to trickle up a little bit more.
Okay. Yeah, that's just from my own personal knowledge because, when we market, it's more local most of the time, and then some of the states that people are coming from. For anyone listening, if they were to call you, like what is going to be the first steps? They say, hey, we have $600,000. We're going to buy an investment property. Here, you talked about strategy. When we were talking about rentals here, we have a strategy. So walk us through the process from start to finish on how you guys figure out exactly where someone needs to be.
Well, definitely all decision makers, we need to be on the same page with all decision makers, because if we have a conversation with one and it's all investment and that's what we're sending, we have to start from square one if the second decision maker isn't all about that. So definitely the motivation and everyone being on the same page is number one in what we're looking for. Once we know what we're looking for, what we usually do is get on a Zoom call and I'll share my screen, or one of our agents will share a screen and sort of do a bird's eye view from Google. And we'll look at the different areas from a bird's eye view and we'll talk about the pros and cons of those areas as it relates to their motivation.
Okay. Are you seeing more people coming in buying more like for this type of property? Are they buying condos or is it houses? Is it a pretty even mix?
It's pretty even. It's a pretty even mix. Houses and townhomes are much easier to get financing on. Probably 99% of our condos are non-warrantable, which just means you can't get traditional financing. It's got to be a little bit creative, and maybe your terms aren't as good. The interest rate might not be as high, but if the numbers work, then it works. People like condos because most of them you can get something affordable with even a view or even on the beach. But other people like the homes because they like the privacy of a neighborhood.
Yeah, that's great. So when you buy one of these, are you restricted? Are there restrictions or rules governing Destin about, like, I know here in Fort Worth, they just recently banned all Airbnb, short-term rentals, unless it's a commercial property. So
right.
Do y'all have any of those types of rules, or is there any worry if somebody came in and bought one of those that it's going to get, taken away, the ability to do that?
Not on our horizon. We have very little resorts, very little hotels. The hotels that we do have are more like, in and out hotels, a La Quinta. We've got a Destin Hilton resort, which is really nice. And then there's something down at the harbor. But other than that, we don't have a lot of resorts. So our tourism economy relies on the short-term rental industry. Without it, we wouldn't be surviving.
So you are paying tax, like some type of short-term rental tax.
Absolutely.
Because that's not happening here. So I think that's why it's becoming such a big deal, is all the hotels. The city wants their piece of the income.
I see. Yeah, we've got a big tourism, both in Walton County and Okaloosa County. Everyone sets their own tax rate, but it works out when you rent something about 12% you're going to pay extra to cover the tourist tax and the sales tax. But we've got a great tourism department here that I think that they probably do good marketing out to you guys in Texas as well, and out in other areas, our other feeder markets. So we don't ever hear of anything being a threat for us.
Well, that's good. I hope not.
Yeah.
So in Destin and all along the Panhandle and the island there, what kind of amenities, what kind of things are there to do that you would recommend for people to come in if they're either just visiting or maybe looking at houses? What would you recommend?
So much. It depends on what you like. So there's some families that come in and they just want to chill at the beach, which is fine, and go eat at some good seafood and nice restaurants and have some fun. There's always live music somewhere. But then we've also got a huge boating population. Destin is coined the luckiest fishing village in the world. Crab Island is right over by our bridge, which is a shallow area right in our harbor and bay that you just take a boat and you just go stand there for the day. It's really cool. There's live music, a lot of deep sea fishing out of Destin. And then there's a lot of golf, and there's a lot of pickleball and a lot of tennis, and pretty much, any water sport if you're into it's here.
I don't know how y'all get things done. Like being at the beach all the time. I guess you just have to phase out and get to work.
It's funny because people come in and they've been here for 2 days and they're like so tan, and I'm sitting here with my, freckled white skin, and they're like, "Don't you ever see the sun?" And I'm like, "Oh, no, not that often." So
how often do you guys go to the beach and get out and enjoy that stuff?
It was really bad, but we are making a conscious effort to, when the weather's good, get there at least Sundays as a family day. And then we'll do like a quarterly team trip to the beach and, do a team building exercise on the beach as well.
So let's say you get the property. Obviously, most people are not going to be from the area. So what are the most important things you would tell people when they're looking for a property manager? What are the questions they need to be asking? And what are the red flags you should look out for when you're talking to these people?
That is such a good question. No management company is apples to apples. Every single management company does things differently. So you can't really just ask the question, what percentage do you charge? Because the company that charges 10 or 15% might have a lot of extras that they nickel and dime you for. And this is not included. This is not included. And then the company that charges you 25 to 30, everything might be included your maintenance. And if something, goes wrong with your couch or something like that. So you really got to look at the specifics. I think it's really important to have a good agent that knows the different management companies and knows their reputations, because anybody can sound good over a pitch for 15 minutes with some good marketing materials. But it is really important, because if you go wrong in your management, not only does that look bad on us if we've suggested the management, but this is your income and this is you're looking for an ROI in most cases. So, we try very hard to match people with the right management company for them. That being said, you could have a building and right next door, the building that is great for the management company that's great for this building is not the right management company for next door. So again, it's property specific as well.
So that's why it's good to have an agent there that knows.
Absolutely. And we do manage some. It's not the part of our business that we're looking to grow. We only manage within a certain radius of our home and office. And we've got 2 other criteria. One, that property has to be really nice. The owner needs to take pride and want to keep it up to date. And then the third criteria is that the owner has to be nice. So,
well, I guess I didn't make that cut. So
you didn't make it because of radius. That's all. Not because of nice property.
Well, one of the things that I always ask everybody is, I talk to a lot of Fort Worth people. So I say, what do you love about Fort Worth? But you're not here, but you know Fort Worth. What do you love about living in Destin? And just tell us what you love.
I mean, so blessed. It's paradise. I look out my window. We're lucky to have a view. And the water is different every single day. The sky is different every single day. The sunset's different every single day. And different times a year, it gets so busy in the summer from Memorial Day to the first week of August when kids go back to school. And there's so many locals that are like, oh, it's so busy and it's all tourists. I love it. You go down the street and you're stopping for this family that walks across the street and the kids are so excited. To me, it makes my heart happy. I love seeing everybody happy, but the beach itself, nothing beats our white sand and our water. It's gorgeous. It's absolutely gorgeous.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much for your time. If you would, go ahead and share. If anybody that's listening to this wants to get in touch with you to learn more about short-term rentals or buying a house on the beach, how can they reach you?
Sure. Jessica Forrester is my name. It's Jessica at EC Beach Homes, as in Emerald Coast Beach Homes.com. Most of our handles are EC Beach Homes as well. Our Instagram, we had to add one extra S because they shut our old one down. We couldn't get it back. So our Instagram is EC Beach Homes with an extra S. My direct phone number is 850-424-1152. We're on all the platforms. Message us. Happy to talk.
And I can attest, they are a great team and very resourceful. So if you do have questions, I would encourage you to reach out.